Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic Hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I'm here to do something that I think is a little fun, a recap and review of the unaired pilot for the 2011 series that would have been Wonder Woman, starring Adrian Palacki, who of course now is on Seth MacFarlane's The Orville. This is a few years before Gal Gadot was cast in the part of Wonder Woman, so it was years before that was on anybody's radar. And there hadn't been any live action Wonder Woman at that point since the 70s. And it was right before the DC verse blew up on the CW. But it was after Smallville, which was very successful. So it was a weird time for superheroes, and in DC anyway. And I remember being very excited that we were going to get a Wonder Woman show because they released images of Adrian Palacki in the costume, which was a little different, but I was like, okay, I can get behind this. It's still very Wonder Woman. It's the one you see behind me with the shiny pants. And, I just was excited to have a Wonder Woman show. And I thought this could be good. There were magazine articles about it. Some of the footage got out. I don't remember if it was leaked or it was used as promo footage. So it was like, wow, this is going to be a good show. And then the news came around that the show was canceled or not picked up. And it was a bummer. Just like when they canceled Batgirl was a huge bummer. But the pilot did eventually make its way to the internet. And a bunch of years ago, I watched clips from it, but I never watched the whole pilot until tonight. And I just wanted to come and do a little bit of a recap and review of the Wonder Woman show that could have been. So the pilot episode starts out in an inner city home where a teenager tells his family that he's been accepted to a particular college, but moments later he begins convulsing and bleeding from the eyes and ears. Meanwhile, Wonder Woman is in a foot chase with a super strength criminal on Hollywood Boulevard, and after knocking him out using her lasso of truth, takes a sample of his blood and leaves him to the police, although begrudgingly. She returns to the headquarters of Themyscira Industries, which is a large corporation that she runs in the guise of her alter ego, Diana Themyscira. Themyscira Industries owns and operates the concept of Wonder Woman as both a privately run crime-fighting operation and a merchandise producing entity that puts out action figures and so forth of Wonder Woman, positioning her as kind of a role model to the outside world. So in this incarnation, Diana has trouble balancing her life as both the person running the Themyscira Industries Corporation and being Wonder Woman. And her frustration with having to maintain a perfect image to the outside world in both of these capacities leads her to create a third identity for herself, Diana Prince, so that she can have an element of normalcy in her life and sit at home with her cat watching romantic comedies and, surfing the web and so forth. But in her job as Wonder Woman, she grows suspicious of a businesswoman named Veronica Cale, played by the gorgeous Elizabeth Hurley, who was at the height of her beauty at the time, just devastatingly gorgeous, who she thinks is distributing an illegal performance-enhancing drug that gives superhuman strength to the people who take it, along with great endurance, but which also causes death after it's used a bunch of times. The thing is, she doesn't have enough hard evidence to bring Cale to justice as Wonder Woman. But what she does is hold a press conference as Diana Themyscira, who, by the way, everybody knows is Wonder Woman, to call out this Veronica Cale and accuse her publicly of doing all this stuff with these illegal drugs, and to let her know that if the justice system doesn't get her, she will. In a flashback that happens somewhere in the episode, we see Diana breaking up with Steve Trevor because of her busy life and the fact that if she becomes Wonder Woman as she was planning to do at that time, it would have put him in harm's way. But back in present day, the teenager who was in the episode at the very beginning dies from the drug sickness, and Diana is at this point really ticked off, and she goes to confront Cale as Wonder Woman. She gets to her facility, defeats all of her superpowered henchmen, and confronts her face to face. Kale threatens legal action and to release security footage of Wonder Woman killing her henchmen, but Wonder Woman responds by pulling Cole down with her lasso and throwing her against a wall. Wonder Woman then is able to get the evidence she needs, and Kale is put in jail. And a Justice Department representative comes to meet Diana, and it turns out that it's Steve Trevor, who says he'll be stationed there in LA to work with Diana in her capacity as Wonder Woman. But he also reveals that he's married another woman. And that's where the pilot ends. And of course, there are a few details in there that I left out just for time purposes. But you can find this pilot online. I'm going to put a link to where I found it in the description so you can watch it for yourself. For myself, I liked it. You know, when I first saw the clips years ago of this pilot, I was like, ooh, I don't know. Maybe it's better that this got canceled because it's too different of a take on Wonder Woman. It's not Linda Carter, that's for sure. But seeing the whole thing now, I have to say, I think it was okay. And I think with time, it could have been really good. The thing is that the pilot itself falls a little bit short of being really good. And I don't think all of that is the fault of the creatives who crafted it. I think it has to do to some degree or a decent degree with the fact that it's a pilot and these actors are playing these characters for the first time and they haven't really connected with them yet and haven't really, fully developed how they're going to play them. And the writers haven't had a chance at this point to see what the actors can do and sort of start writing the characters towards the actors' strengths and, with certain character choices that the actors have made in mind. And, without the benefit of being able to write to certain aspects of the relationships that seem to gel in the performing of the characters, which happens on every series. No series goes a number of seasons without the writing taking various turns and going in various directions based on what works and doesn't work in the performing of the stories by the actors. So I think just from that normal process of growing pains, the show would have improved and become something better than what it was at the beginning, which, like a lot of pilots of very successful shows have been, was a bit clunky. So I think just based on that, it's unfortunate that it didn't get any time to develop because it could have been pretty good. They would have to have tweaked some things for sure, though, because it didn't make sense to me that she had three personas: Wonder Woman, Diana Themyscira, and Diana Prince. It just doesn't make sense that she would say, well, I'm this high powered CEO and Wonder Woman, but I also want to have this unknown personality that nobody knows so I can just be a normal person. It didn't make sense narratively. Like, in other words, why can't you just be the CEO at work and the normal person at home without creating a different personality and putting on glasses and all that business? Just, it's all you. So just be that person with a home life and a work life, which a lot of people do, most people do. And then on top of that, be Wonder Woman, which is just what Diana Prince did in the Wonder Woman TV show, and for that matter, what she does in the recent film. She has two personalities. One is a normal person that has a life, and one is the superhero. So I don't see why they had to break it up into three personas. I think they would have been better off doing two personas. There again, it's a pilot, and we never get to see how that all worked over the course of a season. So I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I think that was the crazy direction to go in. And I think that the thing about it is that the Diana Prince alter ego, is likable, whereas the CEO one kind of isn't. And I think if they were going to lose one, I think that would have been the one to lose, because then it would have been more like traditional Wonder Woman. And I guess if they were trying to not be the Linda Carter show, they wouldn't have wanted to do that. But, you know, I think they damaged themselves with this CEO aspect of it because it didn't get picked up, right? And there's a reason for that. So I think that's where they went wrong. I don't think they should have had her be this CEO who was out as Wonder Woman and, you know, boss lady kind of thing. Because I think it was antithetical to what the Wonder Woman character is, at least in live action. Wonder Woman in animated form has often been depicted as very cutthroat and very boss lady, and in that way is different from the Wonder Woman of the '70s show and the films. And I haven't disliked that Wonder Woman. It's just very different. She's very militaristic in a lot of the animated stuff and very much the hard ass. And it's always worked in animation for me. I found that I liked it, but I don't know, just for some reason in live action, I didn't think it worked. And I think that might have been a reason why it didn't get picked up. So if I were them, I would have taken that aspect out of it. Now, her crime fighting was funded in this pilot by sales of merchandise based on Wonder Woman, but I think they could have got around that, right? Because in the '70s, Wonder Woman didn't need a crime fighting budget. She worked for the government in two different time periods, and she didn't have a lot of gadgets. I mean, she had the lasso of truth and the headband and the bracelets and her costumes, and she had different ones, but they were all from the island. They were all from Themyscira. They didn't cost money. Same thing for the jet. And so she didn't spend money on crime fighting. And in this pilot, the only thing they showed her really having to spend any money on was the plane. She flies a plane, which isn't invisible, and outfits. So I don't know why they had to go the CEO route. I guess they didn't really want to include the Amazonian element, although she talks about being an Amazon in the pilot. So I don't know why they went in that direction. Some of that probably has to do with the fact that it was done by David E. Kelly, who, of course, had done Ally McBeal and Boston Legal. And so his sort of strength was legal dramas. So I think, in corporate sort of stories. So I think somehow he framed it there because that was his comfort zone and then built the Wonder Woman part around it. So I think that was, unfortunate. I think had that not occurred, it could have been a good show if it were more closely modeled on what had come before, which was the '70s. And I say that because Adrian Palacki is excellent. The action scenes were well done for a 2010s pilot. Carrie Elwes is good in it, and Elizabeth Hurley's good in it. So I think it really could have been great if they had just taken out that one aspect, and if it had had time to work out the kinks and get into a groove. I think it could have been really good.
Another reason, though, that the CEO thing didn't really work is because they did it in such a way that she was out as Wonder Woman. And so, unlike on shows like The Arrow and The Flash, where at least at the beginning, law enforcement didn't know who the heroes were and only found out who they were when they decided they wanted to work with the heroes as opposed to opposing them as vigilantes, there would have been no way they could have spent any time where law enforcement wasn't like just arresting her for her extra legal vigilantism. Like they acknowledge that everything she does is extra legal, but they don't arrest her and they never say why, what it is that is allowing her to get away with it. They don't explain any kind of loophole. They don't talk about any reason why she's never arrested for doing the stuff that she does, which, you know, is only an issue in this pilot because the audience knows that law enforcement knows who Wonder Woman is when she's out of the costume. They know where she works, they know where to find her. So, how is she not under arrest? I mean, they talk about some of the complications of all of that, but it's just not realistic because there's no way there would have been any discussion. They just would have arrested her ass. So, that's another reason why it didn't work, that particular aspect.
Just some things I want to note. This version of the character did have different costumes. There's the one in the image that's behind me right now with the shiny blue pants and blue boots, which she doesn't actually wear in the pilot. She wears slightly different blue pants that are more cloth than like patent leather or whatever. And she wears red boots. And then she also wears the, '70s Wonder Woman trunks, the traditional comic book Wonder Woman trunks. So that was interesting because, like I said, the Linda Carter version had different outfits, like a rollerblading one and a swimming one and a Western one, I think was one. They called it that anyway. So that was interesting. And at one point in the pilot, Wonder Woman says the word tits twice. I don't know if that would have been bleeped, leaving the audience to guess what she was saying, or if they would have changed it in the final edit, because this still has like the time code on it and everything. It's not necessarily a final edit. But she says the word tits twice, and I didn't know that that was a word you could say on TV in 2011. I'm not sure you can say it on TV now. Not on like NBC, which was the network that was supposed to get it, as I understand it. So that was interesting. One more interesting note, Pedro Pascal is in it, and he plays a police detective, which is hilarious because, of course, he was in Wonder Woman 1984 as the villain. So that was pretty interesting as well. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the unaired Wonder Woman pilot from 2011 with Adrienne Palicki. I think she was great. I like the costumes. I like the one action scene was handled well. I think it could have been really good if they had tweaked it and made some changes. And I'm bummed that it didn't get its time. Although, who knows how that would have impacted Gal Gadot being cast in the films, which I'm really glad occurred. So I don't know. It just would have been cool if it had been able to continue and if it had been tweaked such that it could have been a good show. But anyway, that's really it. I'm going to get out of here. I'll be back with another video soon. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.